You know the Magna culture, right? Nobody works for me. You people work with me. I'm working for you. The history of mankind has always been dominated by the golden rule. Here's the gold makes the rule. But I don't want to be dominated by anyone. If I feel that strong, I should not be able to dominate somebody either.
Hello there, and welcome back. I'm Richard Dolan in another great conversation with our very own Frank Stronach. Today, as we dive deep into understanding from his perspective what is so critical about what he's come to build, launch, and share with you as the founder, the original thinker, the man who wrote the philosophy and the phenomenology behind all things Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurs. Frank, so good to see you, my friend.
It's great to be with you.
Well, it should be, because every time we're together, we talk about exciting things. We talk about all of these amazing things. And today we're talking about my favorite thing, the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship. Now, what a lot of people don't realize is that if we slow down before we speed up, most people who are seeking financial freedom, financial sovereignty, personal independence need to be entrepreneurs, something that you did back in 1954 when you arrived to Canada for the first time with a few bucks in your pocket and a belly that went empty. And when we study your history and when we follow your track record, there's no missing it that when you launched Fair Enterprise as a mindset, as a philosophy that served you powerfully as the founder of not just Magna, but an industry, you were known as one of Canada's greatest industrial titans in our time. When we look at Fair Enterprise, though, as a set of principles, yes, you've now allowed us to put that into education, to put that into a community, to put that in what we call a SAFE, the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship. Let me just first start here, Frank. What compelled you to share what helped you start a business and grow a business into a multi-billion-dollar phenomenon? What compelled you to want to share this with starting entrepreneurs, with new entrepreneurs of today?
Well, as I said many times, life is a question of fate and circumstances, being at the right time, at the right place, with the right ingredients. Okay, so that is. So I had no great philosophies. I was born in Austria, right, during the war, and was a kid during the war, and I asked myself at a later time, how can a system like that, like the Nazi regime, come to be created, right? So I've seen life from the bottom up to the highest of the high, right? So when I applied for a visa, right, I just wanted to see the world. I had no great philosophies. My aim was to just create a little better life, right? Early on, I had to share a bike with my sister, right? Okay, and so that was always a bit of a hassle. And so basically, my dream or my aim was, if I could get a car and to work at around when you be in America or Canada and you work for half a year, you would earn a car, right? So that what drove me to apply for a visa to the United States and Canada.
Well, I want to slipstream here because I think to do something a little different, because it's no secret that we've talked about your background, where you started, and how that story is unfolded. But for something different today, I want to just stop for a moment, because for those who are watching this, they're of either one of two camps. They're young people who have never heard of and nor had struggled with the kind of life circumstances you have. They were born into a world with Wi-Fi, gaming at their fingertips, and quite frankly, a very peaceful time. And there's that generation of would-be entrepreneurs, and they want to know, how can they be a billionaire too? Another camp, though, are those who are newly arriving Canadians. We have over 1 million new arriving Canadians every year, and they come from war-torn countries. They come from political strife. They come from economic hardships. And I want to underline one fact. Whether you're an aspiring billionaire, like many of our young people, as you know and have lectured to at many universities and colleges, or you're someone who's inspired to be an entrepreneur, to achieve economic freedoms yourself. What I'm saying is that you understand hardship. You were born in a time of war. You understand what it means to journey beyond a horizon where there was no guarantee that you'd find a job, let alone a place to live. And you knew what it took to take a leap of faith. So whether our newly arriving students to the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship come from either of those camps, would you not agree, Frank, that you understand them?
Well, again, I was very young in those things. When you be young, you don't look too far down the road, and I think you adjust, right? Sometimes when you be married and you got kids, you got different responsibilities, right? So I figured it's not a big deal, right? Somewhere along the line, I said, Doc, I might be lifting some stones or cutting some trees down, but I never thought I would wind up in a hospital kitchen washing dishes, right? I felt so sorry for myself, right? But anyway, those are things if you experience all that thing, I think you get shaped, whatever experiences you have, right? So. But anyway, I guess young people or small companies would like to hear from me. How did I get started, and how can I build a company of such a proportion? Right, 180,000 employees, over about 430 companies, and in 35 different countries. So, as I said many times, when we start out, when we're young, we hustle a bit to make some money so we can live in dignity. And I guess I could have lived in dignity in 34 different countries. So the message I want to get across loud and clear is Canada is a great, great country. But we're neglecting something. We're neglecting the economy. And this is why we're here today, to talk about the economy.
Well, I know that you would agree with this, Frank, in all the years that we've known each other, and I do mean years, since meeting you in high school during my business program. You were our school's business mentor. And I think to myself, the value of having a business mentor, a model to emulate and look up to, is such a vital, vital role that someone gets to play. What I love about the establishment of the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship is that you're serving as a mentor yet again. And when you speak about the fair enterprise way of thinking, way of business, here's what I've surmised, dear friend, is that I believe that the fair enterprise philosophy was being fair in enterprise. When I look at your first foreman, the story of Herman, when he approached you and thought to himself, I'm going to go out on my own, and you paused him and thought, let me turn this employee into my friend to my partner, and my partner into my family. And I think that was the genesis of the fair enterprise way of living, way of leading, and way of building Magna into the juggernaut it is today. Frank, how much do you think it is important right now to put some heart back into entrepreneurship, put fair back into enterprise? Do you think it's a good time? Do you think it's important?
I think it's important because it's amazing that pretty well all politicians and business people, and most people agree, if the economy doesn't work, nothing else will work. If the economy doesn't work, you cannot feed the hungry, you cannot look after the most fragile people, the elderly, the sick, and the handicapped. But we do not talk what drives the economy. It's strange. The most important subject, we don't talk about it.
It's crazy. And I think part of the problem is because we don't know how to solve it. But you have not only lived through confronting challenge head on. I mean, you've had your fair share of upset and turmoil, not just running a publicly traded company, but all of the succession issues that come with it. But what I love about what you've done is that you've figured out a way to scale like a science. And that's why you employ 180,000 people at the peak. That's why you are in over 430 operations across 35 different countries. Frank, would you agree that there's a formula to building a sound business? And if so, how would you describe it?
Well, it's basically we have to know or we have to understand what drives the business. The business is driven by three forces: smart managers, hardworking employees, and investors. In essence, I'm saying all three have a right to the outcome, which is profits. The message I want to get across loud and clear is, without workers, you can't make a profit. So it's only fair, it's only smart that workers have a moral right to some of the profits.
Right. And some people watching this might say to themselves, wow, that's a real novel idea. I mean, it sounds like a mindset. It sounds like it's a conscious entrepreneurialism. But I feel like it's the Frank Stronach way. Sharing your profits has been something you've done since the inception of Magna. Is that accurate to say?
Well, I think people which know me better, I think I'm a good person, and but even if I wouldn't be a good person, it's purely from the business point of view, right? You make more money if you share, because workers on the front line, they can see how things should be done, right? Mm-hmm. Because when you be the owner and you cannot be in every place at the same time, right? So you need workers.
Well, but
right?
It sounds, Frank, that as we dive deep and help people understand how your thinking, your influence, your mindset, your methodology, your philosophy on starting a business, scaling a business, and succeeding in business is all very learnable. So these are transferable skills that you've left in published goods. We've coursified many of the things that you've taught me and our team, like our dear friend and partner Ivana and Steve and the team. Is that it's not just good to be a fair enterprise practitioner. It's also smart, Frank, because when I look at the turnover rate in Magna, it was very low. For as long as I can see, and it's for as long as these records have been kept and are accessible. Would you not agree that it's good business, but smart business when you make the profits available to all those who are contributing to the bottom line?
Well, it's usually when you have an example, right? It's easier to understand. When I put in the corporate constitution in the early 80s, the constitution basically said the workers get 10% of the profits over and above their wages. When I put that in that constitution, our profits went up 40% the first year, 100% the second year, and 200% the third year. In essence, if you create a structure where the workers get in a tangible way, that it's measurable, their input, when you let them participate in a tangible way, you release an incredible energy of untold proportions. And that's basically I want to make that available for the younger generation in Canada, for small businesses, et cetera, and because the economy is very important. Like I said, if the economy doesn't work, nothing else will work.
Well, it's feeling like the rise of a new era that you're trying to usher in, like a anti-selfishness, or what you'd probably more accurately say, selflessness. It feels like it's counterintuitive. The more you share, the more you grow. And it's evidenced by the numbers you just shared that the minute that you had actually implemented this philosophy in the business, profits soared because everyone felt like they had a hand in the pot of gold. I remember many times you have a quote, you'd often use it, if I may, and you'd say that he who has all the gold makes the rules. But you didn't want to be the one who was making all the rules. You wanted everyone.
That's the golden rule.
It's the golden rule. And in all the research I've conducted, in all the history books that we've read, in all the videos that we've poured through, everyone always said that Frank wasn't building a business for himself. He was building a business for us all. Is this a Is this a battle cry, or is this an extension of fair enterprise thinking, Frank?
No, it's it has been driven by common sense. Okay, that I say, look. So we got to take a look, and we need examples. So when we look back in history, mankind came a long way, right, from the caveman to the hunt and hunted, to the kings and to the servants, and now we have bosses and disgruntled employees. So basically, what I did, I've said, nobody works for me, they work with me. Okay, I work for them. Okay, so when I'm going back and I explained the way the whole philosophy started, right? When my foreman, right?
Herman.
Yeah, his name was Herman. Yeah, when we had about 20 people, right? When I noticed it was a little different, I said, Herman, what's the matter with you lately? Well, Herman said, look, Frank, I want to start my own business. I said, I can sympathize with that. I said to him, maybe we can find a better answer for you and for myself, right? So let's talk tomorrow, right? And that evening I was talking to myself, and that's the key, right? The key was, if that foreman's going to leave me, that would stifle my growth. It's not good for me. The next reason what I liked even less was, if that foreman's got to leave me, I got to do all the work. I liked it even less. So, and if I hire a new foreman and I don't show him how a business is run, I still got to do all the work. But if I show him how a business is run, if I teach him how a business is run, then after 1 or 2 years, he will leave and start its own business. So that's why we got the academy. We want a would-be thing here and say, look, there's so much you can do out there, right? And create things and be different, right? And have a whole new philosophy. This is what the Stronach Academy is about. It's a whole new philosophy. If you teach the workers that they be business owners, or being part owner or complete owners.
Right. Well, let's flip the script, though, Frank, because we've chatted many times about the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship, embracing a try and true philosophy like fair enterprise thinking, its principles and its underpinnings. The current state of the economy has found, and you currently remain an employer. I mean, your portfolio includes building electric cars and bikes. You're in organic farming. You have a grocer. You have a restaurant. You have many other businesses, and I'm just naming a few. It's hard to find good help. It would occur to me as an employer as well, no one wants to really work. Don't know if you've been noticing that. It's hard to find great employees. It's hard to find people that are motivated to work hard. Times have changed. Frank, do you believe that the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship, teaching new startup entrepreneurs and those who wish to scale, that by teaching them this philosophy, we might be able to correct that current phenomenon?
I hope so, but we have an environment where to get started, there's huge amount of hurdles. Okay, it's made so difficult, right? And it might take you months to get into. You got to go too many loopholes, and it's more and more difficult. That people get discouraged and say, "Look, that's the way it is." The rich don't want to share with the working class, and so it makes it's more and more difficult. And you can see it. It's so clear, right? 50 years ago, when the first computers came on the market, the slogan was, if you got one of those computers, you could eliminate a total office floor in a high-rise office building. What we have now, when we take a look, we got 20 times more office buildings. So we got huge amount. What do they do in the office? Well, they don't make products in there. It's paper transaction. It's regulations, regulations, regulations. We got more regulators now than people which want to make products. Because they put so many regulations up that the product can't be made.
Yeah.
Okay, so we really, I think that's the most important thing is we got regulators, regulators, regulators.
Well, and you make a good point about your observation 50 years ago when the first computer made the mainstream in corporate earth. But we now have a new issue. I mean, as sobering as the new computer was, now we have artificial intelligence from ChatGPT and its power and its ability to compute at the rate in which it's growing. What people start to feel is a little bit, hopeless. I mean, you speak about disgruntled with bosses. Now we're a little bit alarmed about the growth of technology. But you've always said that human beings, for there to be a healthy economy, it needs people. You need people to build things. You need people to move things. You need people to serve other people. Do you still stand by that statement?
Look, first of all, AI, you can't grow tomatoes just with AI, right? I mean, like it's another tool, like the computers, but you still need the basics, right? Let's say a farmer can't produce products, right, if he hasn't got the seed. Okay? And the society cannot make products if they haven't got the skilled labor. So it is so simple. Okay? So what we have for the last 40 years, any time when there was a new building gone up, it was a warehouse. Okay? So we totally neglected the skilled labor. Without skilled labor, you can't make a product. So we got to rely on imports. So what we have in Canada is we have the debt goes up like crazy, the imports go up like crazy, and the bureaucracy goes up like crazy. It's like a freight train going down the hill with no brakes on it. But let's talk about it because we at the school I think we're gonna open it in 1 or 2 weeks, and so we should maybe talk about it. I hope we get a lot of questions answered. Okay, so let's say we have got 2 programs. One we got for would-be entrepreneurs. Those are students which maybe have graduated in university or college or high school or will be shortly. So we like to assist them, and we like to get the small business going to grow the small business in the big businesses.
Yeah, no, of course. The 2 buckets, of course, the new and the growing. But before you hang the banners and before we switch the sign that says open for business, the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship, I want to underscore, especially for young people, Frank, something you said for me is incredibly critical. You see, I'm not quite sure if you've noticed it too, but people who are young and are just fresh out of school, whether high school, university, college, or post-secondary, are disheartened. They're disheartened because they feel like they might be battling a certain dead-end battle themselves. They think that in the presence of artificial intelligence, there's no room for original thinking or thought. And what I love that you've underscored is that, no, we still need people. People need people. So you properly identified AI as yet another tool. And why I want to say that is because young people who don't want to work for others and young people who want to, in fact, be on their own have no one to look up to. And what I'm wanting to say in this moment, my friend, is that I'm in completely alignment with you, that the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship has and will be teaching a way of thinking, a mindset that has entrepreneurs think for themselves. And that's why it's exciting that we're speaking to these 2 buckets, those who are just getting started and those who wish to grow. So I just wanted to underscore that. I made a point to myself earlier on too, though, is that you've learned something, Frank, about scaling. Let's talk about the mature investor, or rather entrepreneur. Those who've started a business and wish to grow. You've been able to distill the ability to scale a business like a science. You have. Back to your example of Herman the foreman, you've shared stories before about foremen who'd said, hey, I've reached an earning max. I can't make any more money. right? Tell us about the story of how you taught your foreman who ran factories that had a maximum of 300 staff to
Well,
grow.
but going back to Herman, I said, look, why don't we open up a new factory? And you would own a third. He said, you mean it? I said, yes. We went right away to a lawyer, wrote it down. That was his factory. And he worked like crazy right that way because he knew he gets a portion of the thing. But going on, let's say, like I said, we had over 400 small. Magna grew by creating small companies. Yes, we had a few large companies, but we had maybe 5 large ones and maybe 420 small ones. Any new factory we built, I stifled the they could not have more than 300 employees, right? That was the limit that I set. So I had managers come to me and say, Frank, I want to earn more monies. I said, that's nice to hear. I always like to listen to people which want to earn more monies. I said, all you have to do is think about it, be smart about it. Well, he said, well, Frank, you're stifling me because I only allowed to have 300 employees. Well, I said, you still could be smart and make more monies. So anyway, we got back and forth. Finally, I said to him, look, why don't you replace yourself, groom the assistant foreman to become the foreman, and then I give it the money and you create a new factory. And you get a percentage from both of them. So I had managers replace themselves about 10 times, and they made about 10 million a year, right? Even
Incredible.
some replaced themselves more than 10 times, right? So that is, so basically, I believe in small companies, right? But they could have an association amongst themselves, right? Okay. So that's why the Stronach Academy will be able to point out a lot of variations. Like you need a different structure when you have 10 people, right? Or 20 or 50, 100 people, or 500 people, or 5,000, or 10,000, or 100,000, right? In that thing, we provide the academy, the Stronach Academy will provide real life examples, right? What to do to reach that, right? Okay, and it's not that difficult, right? I mean, it's common sense, right?
It's common sense.
Common sense.
It's common sense, distilled by you, published by your team. We're so grateful that we've really been able to coursify your thinking. We've been able to create the formula. We've reverse engineered your thinking to make sure that anybody of all sizes, no matter if they're just getting started, you're beginning to scale, or thinking about greater success or succession, you have everything you need in terms of thought leadership, some practical viewpoints, but also you here. Frank, tell me, when people join the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship, among many things that they get, from copies of your books to being able to ask you questions, even for a lucky few, they get to meet you over lunch and dinners, depending on the calendar. What excites you the most about the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship?
What excites me is to transfer a philosophy, right, which we have not for. Well, we never had that because it would dismantle the golden rule. Okay, that's why we've never taught that way, huh? That you could share the wealth, right? And accumulate more wealth if you share, okay? So the most important thing for me, or what to look forward to, we could eliminate poverty, you see? An economic charter of rights would eliminate poverty. But it's the regulations worry me, right? And, you know, I know most of the politicians, they're decent people, they want to do the right thing here, but they can't. They're trapped in the system, So to change things in society, timing is the most important thing, right? Timing is, unfortunately, the timing will not be great for people, right? The economy will not. The economy will not function well for many reasons. That means the fridge has got to be half empty. A lot of mothers will ask, how can I feed my kids next week? So it's going to be very severe. It's timing, and you need a constituency too. Without a constituency, you can't bring about change either. It's so important. I want to build a small business. You hold the future of Canada in your hands. Band together. Band together, and you get rid of the red tape. Get rid of those regulations, okay? And small business doesn't make a lot of money. Small business should not pay any business tax. Governments make more monies on wage taxes, on income, right? So small business, they want to grow. They rather hire one or two people than pay maybe 50 or 100,000 to the government, right? But the government would make more monies that way. They would the income tax will provide more tax monies to the government. So I think it's without that. If small business does well, the whole country would do well because they all play on the same level playing field. Right now, when you take a look at the tax code, it's a book with thousands of paragraphs. One paragraph is more convoluted than the other. We need a clear-cut tax system, black and white, no loopholes. Okay, so we got to change something. We got to change the system, because as I said earlier, I had great politicians on my board, very decent guys who want to do well, but unfortunately, when you come out with something new, you can't be criticized. Yeah. So there's only name calling. Nobody comes up with a new program, and this is why when you look back in history, you learn from history, right? When you look back and say, like, who was the greatest politician, or I would call him statesman, Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill said on numerous occasions, the parliament doesn't work. We only got politicians in parliament. The mandate of a politician is to be elected or re-elected. He said we need a chamber of citizens to balance out the politicians. In Canada's way, it would be small business would be the citizen, the chamber of citizens. So they gotta band together. They have power, and if the small business does well, the whole country do well. And that's why it would make it easier for small businesses to start. In most cases, the regulations are so difficult, a lot of people give up.
Wow. This is gold.
So that's very serious thing. But again, we would like to interface with would-be entrepreneurs. Basically, we would say to them, look, your number one thing is you got to define where you have an affinity, what you would like to do, right? Because you got to have an affinity for whatever we want to do. So submit maybe the 3 or 4 affinities, and we advise you. We advise you how to start out, and et cetera, right? So it'd be an easy way. And for small businesses, we say, look, that's the way. When I had 50,000, that's the way I operated. 100,000, that's the way a little different.
I love it.
A little different when it was 200,000. So we can be practical examples to small business but first, small business gotta band together for the sake, if they love the country, if they love their kids, we gotta change the system.
I mean, I tried saying this already, but I'll get to say it now that you've paused. That was gold. And I'll tell you, for those who are viewing and watching this video at home, by your device or online, I mean, this conversation we're having is so authentic. I mean, for anyone watching this, they see a man with gray hair, a handsome fella.
Baby blonde hair.
Well, I'm talking about me. I was talking about me. But they're thinking to themselves, man, this guy's got so much money, all the money in the world that one can imagine. He's at an age and stage in his life, he should be retired or playing golf somewhere or laying on the beach and working on his tan. And you're not. You're a man on a mission. And so allow me, if I may, Frank, if you're following this, here's what I've heard. There's an old term called life's worth. Net worth. It's you take everything that you own, you subtract everything that you owe, and you're left with a net worth. It's a financial number. But life worth is the value you give to and get from life. The value you give to and get from life. And you're a man growing his life's worth by being a contribution, by transferring your philosophy. These are your words. And some people look at acts of philanthropy as just donating money. You're giving more than that. But here's the cool part about what you're doing, and I love this. As the CEO of SAFE, here's what I know you're really up to. It's your life's mission. I feel that your life's mission is to change the system, and not change the system by public decree or publishing thoughts or even spouting out ideas. You're actually going to infuse your thinking, your future-proofing of Canadians' economic future into education, through education, with mentorship in mind, and empowering people to basically live a great life that produces for them financial freedom that they deserve. And that, to you, will allow you to achieve your life's mission, which is to eliminate poverty. Would you agree?
Well, my mission is I would like to see Canada being the first country in the world with an economic charter of rights. The message I want to get across is the human charter of rights alone is not sufficient. We have to fortify it with an economic charter of rights. Economic charters of rights will lead to economic democracies, and economic democracies are the basis for democracy itself. And we got to realize, too, if you're not economically free, you're not a free person. And it's a shame that so few Canadians are economically free. What do I mean by that, economically free? What is my definition? Well, you always should say what are the minimum conditions, right? I'm saying if a Canadian woman or a Canadian man work for 30 years, they should have at least accumulated that they own a little house or a condo and would have maybe $300,000 in the bank to supplement their old age pension so they can choose their own road to happiness in their later years. It's a shame that it's not. If via an economic charter of rights, we could achieve the minimum standards. And I'm not preaching to take away from the rich. I'm preaching the workers must participate in capital building. If we do not create capitalists out of the workers, the capitalistic system has got no chance to survive. And the capitalistic system needs harnessing when they get larger, and let it be free when they have 300 employees or less. Let it be free to operate under the free enterprise system or the capitalistic system. And when they grow larger, then the capitalistic system needs harnessing. Then they have to share the profits with the workers. So below 300 employees, you have the taxman should have no business in a small business, and the regulator has also no business in small business. Small business knows that workplace safety is important, and they know you cannot dump poison chemicals, in your backyard. But otherwise, let it be free. That means if you as an owner, there's different way. You gotta know your employees. The ones which work harder, smarter, you gotta pay them a bonus, or give them a share of the profits, or even give them equity. You decide. Don't have a regulator come in and decide to run your business. Yeah. When I built up my first company 65 years ago, when I opened up the first tool and die making, open for business, I didn't need any regulation for years. When I built my first new factory in Richmond Hill, I had a set of blueprints. I went to the townhouse, and they looked at the blueprint and say, well, it's stamped by a qualified engineer for snow load, wind load, sewage. There is. Good luck. We're happy that you opened a business in our town. It was so simple, huh? Now it takes months and years, okay? We make it so difficult. So again, I'm appealing to small business. You gotta band together for the sake of if you love your kids. Because if we don't do that, there's no future. Okay, so it's so crucial. Small business gotta band together and let them hire employees. Let them make products.
I love it. You know, aside from a vision, design principles, and a philosophy, I think what a lot of people will look forward to getting the most out of attending a Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship program, workshop, even joining, whether you're just getting started, you wish to scale or be successful, is not just new ways of doing things as a business owner, not just new ways of building your business, but what I love that you just got me represenced to, Frank, is new ways of thinking for yourself.
It's a new way of thinking. That's
new way of thinking.
Yeah. And it's the most amazing thing. It's so simple. It's common sense, huh? Again, yes, it's mixed with a cup of wisdom and a cup of common sense, right? It's new thinking. And we have two programs, right, for would-be entrepreneurs. A yearly membership would be $200. And we have a membership for a small business. The yearly membership would be for $400. So what do you get for that? First of all, you get two books, right? One is The Magnum Man, which I wrote, The Road to Economic Freedom. And then it should come out within the next 2 weeks. It's in a printing process. The Canadian Economic Charter of Rights, The Road to Economic Freedom. So you get that. Then you get a monthly newsletter. You know, both we keep the would-be entrepreneur, it's a separate class, and the small business, it's a separate class. But they both get the same, a monthly newsletter, where the newsletter for the young and be a little different than the newsletter for the small companies. But it will show them the real way or real examples how to do things when you be in a certain stage, right? So it's So most of it that would be where we answer in a newsletter, call it the most interesting questions, right? So it's very important. Then we have a quarterly web seminar where the management of the academy be available, where we invite members which have a yearly membership. They can invite to. We randomly would pick 24, right? And hopefully we have thousands joining on the website.
We will.
Where we have lunch, and then the management team is available for 2 hours live to answer any questions. So we should be able to answer a lot of questions in 2 hours, right? So for small business, how to grow it bigger. For small businesses, what to be careful. I'm saying usually, when you be small, take some small steps. Right. Make bigger steps once when you feel the footing gets kind of solid underneath your feet, right? So we can give you a lot of wisdom and a lot of real life experiences to what you don't get in a university, right? They don't teach, they only teach the golden rule, right? Yeah. But not fair enterprise. So fair enterprise will play a very important part.
I love that. In the few minutes we have left, Frank, I'm going to be very selfish for a moment to talk about a topic that you're now living the chapters of, but are very important to me given how we've started and where I now am. So let me explain. At my stage in life, I'm noticing that I speak to people about starting businesses and scaling businesses, but it's unusually peculiar, the accelerating rate of how many people are now mapping out their succession plans. Now, in getting to know you over all these years, I'm so grateful and always humbled by all the things I've learned about you. And one of the underbellies to the lessons I've learned is your relationship to legacy, how you've exited your business, how that impacted your family, you financially, you philosophically, but also now philanthropically. It's actually accelerated the things you're doing. So I have a philosophy where I think that legacy is not just determined by what you leave. What you leave is defined by how you live, how you lead, how you love, how you do as you're doing. And that determines what you leave. So here's my point. What I want all of our friends of the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship to know, and all those inspired by your story, it's not just about how you start and how you scale, but it also will be a function of how you succeed, as in the succession of your business, the passing it along, or perhaps inducing an equitable event. How important is the term legacy to you right now, Frank?
Well, I think the key is you have the feeling that you have a purpose in life. Okay, I think that's key. And when you have a purpose, you also have a conscience. And I'm always saying, especially to young people, focus on today to stay alive. But leave the door open for tomorrow and follow your dreams and be guided by your conscience.
I love that. And I think we should end there. I think that what you don't realize is that with all the authorship, with all your leadership, one of the things of many that you've authored is now this new movement on consciousness to capitalism, reintroducing heart to leadership, understanding that sharing is caring, knowing that responsible leadership and entrepreneurship is the fair enterprise philosophy in action. Frank, thank you so much for always sharing so much with us.
You always have great questions and you keep the ball rolling.
Well, this is a true story. I am keeping the ball rolling. As the CEO of the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship, we want to thank you for joining us in a conversation with our dear friend, your friend, Frank Stronach. As the founding principal member, the philosopher, the pointiest end of the arrow, I promise you that Frank Stronach's thinking, history, his track record, but more importantly, his success is only going to inspire you to produce more of that just the same. And we promise here at SAFE that we'll do it together. Until next time, if you want to learn anything else about the Stronach Academy for Entrepreneurship, please click the link below and we'll be sure to get in touch with you. We'll join Frank Stronach in another conversation about you, the Canadian economic future, starting with yours.